What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and while we may not have any new weapons to explore this season, there are some guns that are receiving major damage stat changes for Operation Ember Rise. First and foremost among them, Jackal's PDW9. This means that my previous Loadout meta video is now out of date, so good news everyone! We're going to be revisiting Jackal to compare his C7-E and PDW9. What are their strengths and weaknesses, and which one should you be using in which situation? Let's go and find out. As always, let's start out with a quick check of the overall stats. I briefly checked over all of the important ones with a few tests in-game, and it appears that everything but the damage output of the PDW9 is remaining as is. The SMG is getting a damage buff at close range and a nerf at long range to finally give it the proper damage drop-off it always deserved. No longer will the PDW be the outcast among Siege's guns, the only gun that for some reason got more powerful at longer ranges. For better or for worse, those days are finally coming to an end. But despite the long-range damage nerf, the PDW remains the better gun at long range for Jackal, and with both guns having the same fire rate, the individual damage advantages and disadvantages translate through into the damage per second stats. And as I mentioned, all else remains equal. Because of this, the way I will be structuring this video is that I will briefly recap all of the important elements about the guns that are not changing, and then go into a more detailed discussion and comparison of the takedown power of each weapon before issuing a new conclusion. If you've seen my previous Loadout meta video on Jackal and you remember all of the details from back then feel free to check the comment section below for a timestamp that will allow you to jump straight to the damage discussion. If you would like a quick refresher on all of the other stats, just sit back, relax, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, hold, and gently breathe out. And now open your eyes and pay attention because I have some quickfire gun info for you. In terms of capacity, 30+1 bullets is great, but 50+1 bullets is even greater. Standard balancing in R6 is more bullets in the gun means longer reload times, and that applies to Jackal too. The C7-E has blisteringly fast reload times, the best of any assault rifle in the game, and even better than most SMGs. The PDW9 is the polar opposite, with reload times that are 300 to 500 milliseconds below the average for the SMG class. But I guess you get almost double the capacity, so swings and roundabouts. Aim down sight times are the standard 450 and 300 milliseconds respectively, but with the angled grip you can cut each of those down by 40%, giving you a pretty good 270 milliseconds with the C7-E and a downright amazing 180 milliseconds with the PDW. Hipfire spreads are also very good for both guns, with the C7-E taking an advantage while stationary and prone, and the PDW winning out while on the move. This emphasizes the playstyle that have already been hinted at by the ADS times. The PDW is probably one of the best guns in Rainbow Six for fighting on the move and quickly acquiring any targets you come across. The C7-E will benefit more from a measured approach involving meticulous droning and pre-aiming every push. And last but not least in our little recap, recoil. In the charts at the bottom of your screen now, from left to right for both guns, you have recoil patterns with no attachments, recoil patterns with minimized vertical recoil, i.e. the muzzle brake and the vertical grip attached, and on the C7-E side only, also a variation with the compensator instead of the muzzle brake. All in all, the recoil for the PDW is more consistent and not as strong vertically, so this round definitely goes to the SMG once again. Now if we tally up the scores so far to decide which gun is better based solely on target acquisition, controllability and ammo availability, I would call it a draw in terms of the ammo because one has more bullets but the other much better reload times, a draw in terms of hipfire because they are very similar in most cases, a win for the PDW in terms of aim down sight time, and another minor win for the PDW in terms of recoil. The interim conclusion is that, without considering the takedown power of each gun, the nimble PDW definitely has the edge over the more cumbersome rifle. Has the age? I don't even know what I'm saying here. Has the edge, of course. But of course, that begs the question, How do the new damage stats affect the PDW's ability to take out opponents? Which gun now comes out on top in this category? We've seen the raw damage stats per shot, the fire rates, and the resulting damage per second stats, and they would suggest that the C7-E is far more powerful in the all-important short-range gunfights, but that the PDW still wins out at stupidly long ranges of 34 meters plus. Let's see if this initial indication is confirmed by the new shots to down or kill or time to down or kill stats. If you still remember the original PDW stats from my video 7 odd months ago, then first of all, holy cow, what diet are you on to have a memory like that? I definitely need to start eating more of whatever you're on. But secondly, you will notice that at short range, the change to the PDW's damage stats have reduced the shots to down or kill for level 2 armor opponents by 1, making the PDW just as good as the C7-E now. Against most level 1 and level 3 armor shot placement and rook armor combinations though, the extra 4 points of damage will not make a difference, at least as long as the enemy is still at full health. And so overall, the C7-E is still the more effective gun at taking down opponents at close ranges up to 25 meters, although the gap between the two guns has narrowed considerably. This is also reflected by the time to down or kill stats, where the one extra bullet that the PDW needs in just over half of the cases will mean 75 milliseconds extra to deal with the opponent. At long range, after both weapons have had their damage bottom out, the significant nerf to the PDW's damage from 35 down to 26 means that the gap between the two weapons has narrowed significantly. Nevertheless, the damage of the C7 is even lower here, which means that the PDW will still need on average one less shot to down or kill, which then results in an average time saving of 75 milliseconds for the corresponding time to down or kill. So that confirms our initial conclusion that the C7-E is still the more powerful gun up close, although the advantage is not quite as consistent anymore, and the PDW9 is still a whole lot better at very long range. But now that the PDW has a proper damage drop-off curve, we have to consider the much earlier drop-off range of the SMGs compared to the rifles. You see, last time that didn't matter because the PDW's damage just went from 34 to 35 at some point, but now that the damage starts falling away from 18 meters and onward, that means that there is an intermediate distance at which the SMG will be much weaker than the C7 because the rifle's damage does not even start to fall off until 25 meters, at which point the PDW's has already pretty much bottomed out. Let me show you what I mean. At the very top, you see the damage for each gun at all ranges for chest shots with no rook armor. Then below in blue, the shots to down or kill for the C7-E, and below that, the same in orange for the PDW9. The last three rows show the difference between the two guns in terms of shots to take out an opponent, and as you can clearly see, the close range and long range stats tell a bit of a biased story because it makes the PDW actually look like the stronger gun on average. But it's the middle distance that tells the true story. As you can see, the PDW will consistently need 1 or even 2 extra shots at those ranges. Once you add in rook plates, leg strikes, or both at the same time, that disadvantage is going to become even more noticeable, with the PDW needing 1, 2, or even 3 shots more at certain distances. This means that the true conclusion actually favors the C7-E much more than we may have initially expected. Yes, at ranges below 18 meters, the rifle is only a bit stronger than the SMG, and at distances of 35 meters or more, the PDW will actually frequently need 1 less hit. But if you're fighting at medium range, the clear advantage goes to the C7-E. The question is, how likely are you to encounter opponents at any of these distances? The fact is that most interior spaces in Siege are not that large. Rooms will only be a few meters across, and even hallways are not usually that long. Most combat will definitely take place at the range below 18 meters, and if you do go above that, then the chances of it ever going to 35 meters or more are very slim indeed. Since nobody has time to constantly be measuring the distance to their opponents, I would say that the simple fact is that with the new PDW stats, you always want to keep things relatively close-ranged, because if you try to go for long-ranged fights, you are most likely to end up in the middle distance that you don't want to be at, rather than the ultra-long range where you will start to see an advantage again. So despite the PDW9 becoming more powerful at short range with Operation Ember Rise, and still remaining a great option at very long long range, the new damage drop-off will be a definite nerf at certain ranges. In conclusion, I would still say that the C7-E is the more flexible and more reliable gun for most players, but as long as you keep your gunfights below the magic 18 meter mark, the PDW is still an excellent choice, and its target acquisition and controllability perks are pretty much unrivaled amongst all of the other attacker weapons. Jackal still has two of the best guns in the game, and the fact is that you won't go far wrong by picking either of the two, just as long as you stay away from that god-awful ITA-12L. Such a pointless option to include on an operator who already has a secondary shotgun. And that's it. If the info and tips I have presented today could be useful to you, do feel free to give the video a thumbs up. If I wasted your time, then that's what the thumbs down is there for. As always, thank you so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode.